Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends from DVCRentalStore.com, Mr. Paul Krieger.
Hey, everybody.
From MoneraFinancial.com, Ms. Amy Krieger.
Hello.
From DVCResaleMarket.com, Ms. Jody Gross.
Hello.
And our producer, Big Fat Panda, a.k.a. John Sicari.
How are you guys?
He was born Big Fat Panda and then adopted the name John Sicari after the fact. And those companies I just mentioned make up the world of DVC, are sponsors for our DVC content. So if you would like to rent some points or rent out your points, DVCRentalStore.com is where you head for that. If you'd like to purchase a DVC resale contract from Ms. Jody Gross, you can go to DVCResaleMarket.com for that. Or if you'd like to finance, if you would like to finance your DVC resale contract, Amy can help you, MoneraFinancial.com. So, this week we're going to talk about a little West Coast update. I know we're all looking forward to the eventual opening of the Disneyland DVC Tower. Anybody else buying points there when it goes on sale?
No, because we bought Grand Californian instead. But now I'm like, kind of want both. So,
Add-on-itis, the struggle is real.
I feel like we might wait for the pollination.
That's true.
Oh, we're seeing some consternation in the Krieger house.
I'm hoping because
The whole thing just went on.
I was giving him a look too. No. I'm hoping because it is going to be like a larger DVC unit, especially compared to what's already out there, that some of us do stand a chance at getting in at the 7-month window. I don't know how hopeful I should be at that.
We could sell our boardwalk contract and buy.
Yeah, that's not happening.
We don't need to do a show. We can just sit and do this. Be flies on the wall as Amy and Paul fight it out to see whether or not they're buying a Disneyland Tower contract. I think I keep telling myself no, that I've already bought enough points, and I have, but
I don't know that I'll buy immediately, knowing how big it's going to be. So we're talking 350 studios, basically. We're talking about a large, or 350 rooms, and a large portion of those being studios. And so my mind harkens to the Polynesian, harkens to, Grand Floridian. I just think it hopefully will be easier to get into this resort.
Can we take bets if you're going to buy or not? Because I'm going with yes.
You're going with yes?
Oh, I'm going with
Definitely.
big yes for Pete.
There's like no question in my mind that you will. Even if you say no right now, you're going
I'm
to.
just happy to be out of the hot seat now. On you.
Let's put the attention on Pete. I'm probably gonna, yeah. I'm probably going to. Because there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. But, yeah.
Who are we kidding? You're gonna.
Yeah, I'm going to end up doing it. And that'll just give me an excuse to be out in Disneyland more often.
Yay.
Which, not that I need one, but I think I'll end up doing it. But when do we think they'll go on sale? They normally go on sale, about 6 months before they
Roughly.
Before they actually open the property. And we know it's opening in 2023. We don't know when. But we're thinking, like March time frame is kind of where my money is right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. So we were there just a week ago, and it was our first time to really explore the property in a little bit. And they are just cooking with steam in terms of the construction on this resort. They are, I imagine they're getting pretty close to the top of the tower at this point, and they've already got glass on about the lower third of it. So you know that they're going to be getting inside, doing some interior work pretty soon as well. But knowing how Disney does construction projects, that probably still means that there's, 6 months or more, 6 to 9 months or so before they're really even getting relatively close to being
So we're
100%.
thinking summer 2023.
Yeah, I think spring, summer 2023, and that aligns itself with a lot of the new things that we'll be talking about on this show as well that we've heard them rumoring for the Disneyland resort. But yeah, that's sort of where my money is. And we recently did also get news that they did apply and get their condo association license for this specific villa. So it is now a part of Disney Vacation Club. And that's another basically procedural step that they have to go through before they can actually start selling that property. So we're getting very close. Hopefully, depending on when this show goes up, maybe we learn a little bit more about what they're thinking here at the upcoming D23 convention.
Yeah, we're recording this before D23. This
Yep.
will go up after D23,
Yeah.
so we may have information from that. I was just going to ask what you thought the possibility of an announcement at D23 is.
I think we have to learn something, especially with what we're. So we just recently, the day before we filmed this, we heard that they're now bringing a new member lounge to the Disneyland park out in California. So they're building but they're putting a Disneyland lounge above the Star Wars launch bay in Tomorrowland. A lot of people have been rumoring ahead of D23 that we might be hearing of some refurbishment or some new additions that might be coming to the Tomorrowland area of Disneyland. And so I think this sort of puts the writing on the wall that maybe they're going to inject some new life into that area of the park. And this is maybe just the first step towards that, but it also sort of is a step towards getting members excited about going to Disneyland because, and Jody, maybe you can speak to this a little bit, from conversations I've had with people previously, when they sold Grand Cal, it was a little bit of a struggle. Now, we're not expecting it to be, but maybe they've got some lingering concerns in the back of their mind.
You mean when I mentioned that when I worked there direct, it was which is funny, right? In hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a new thing then, and there was concern that it wasn't going to be as sought after as maybe they were thinking it was going to be what Aulani turned out to be, like never selling out. But I think because Grand Cal's been out for so long that people know it now, they love it, they want to go out to, especially the huge Disney fans, even the ones that live here on the East Coast, they want to see the other parks. So I think that they're not going to have any problem selling this, and I don't anticipate it being an issue. I think it's a different time now, and they've already tested the waters once. So I think, and with them building this excitement, as you mentioned, with the member lounge, I think it's going to be a different experience.
Yeah, I think the member lounge is probably the first of announcements that we get that is maybe more Disney Vacation Club based out there. But I think they're going to continue to sort of add some more perks, add some member magic and stuff like that ahead of this. But totally,
they needed to, because Disneyland was sort of for members, I feel, a little forgotten about.
Yeah. We talked about that at one point, I think.
Yep. So I think whoever's making that call, it's the right call. They need to do something for them. They need to put a little more oomph into it, the membership for members out there.
So I don't know if we'll get an opening date, but we'll definitely get it probably a better feel for a time frame here at D23.
And keep in mind, the president of Disneyland, Ken Potrock, was at one point the president of the head of DVC, senior vice president of DVC. So, and I know for a fact he's got a soft spot for DVC. So I wonder how much the member lounge was him pushing a little bit to make that space. It's because they're not flush with space at Disneyland.
It's very different there.
Yeah.
It's a very different environment. They're not flush with space. So it's a big deal that they're making this space available for DVC members. And it also suggests they're paying attention when we say that DVC on the West Coast doesn't get a lot of love.
Yep.
Doesn't get a lot of love. But as far as how well Disneyland Tower is going to sell, I think, whatever the situation was with Grand Cal when it opened, you see now the Grand Cal is going for almost $300 or more than $300 a point. What was it what did it sell for when it first went on sale?
About $100 a point.
About $100 a point. So I think people look at that and say, well, we got to get in.
Yeah.
You now have a really solid base of West Coast DVC members. And you got to remember, Disneyland people, they experience those parks differently than Disney World people. That's a
much.
locals park.
Yes.
That's a locals park. So you've got California locals that are going to be buying that up. You're not going to see so much of people from the East Coast buying that up. So I think it's going to sell out very quickly. I think it may set records for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a hit, definitely a hit for Disney.
Well, just look at the pent up interest and demand for it.
And you can't buy Grand Cal direct. They closed that wait list, so the only way to get that right now is through the resale market, and the prices are very high. So this is how most members are going to get into Disneyland.
Yeah, and I think if you're like a diehard Disney fan, that's your next step. You bought Disney Vacation Club, you love going to Walt Disney World every year, and now it's that thought of making the pilgrimage every 2 years or every year out to Disneyland for a 4-night stay or whatever that might be. That's exactly how we view our Grand Californian points, and I think we had talked about buying at Disneyland even before we moved to Florida, because it was always something that we knew we would be doing every year to 2 years, and so it just makes that I think this is the number that I always wish we could see when it comes to sales of a resort, but I would love to see what percentage of sales are add-on members at this new tower, because I think that there will be a large percentage of people that are current members that definitely want to purchase at Disneyland now.
What do we think the price point's going to be?
I think they're trying to keep them kind of where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's still going to be a similar price point to where, whatever's selling at that time, Riviera, Aulani, Grand Floridian are, but whatever it goes up to by that point.
Where are we now with direct points?
207?
We're at 207, and that's before any incentives or anything bring down that price. And we've not seen that move for a little bit, so we're definitely probably going to see that creep up once or twice before sales of the Disneyland Tower go on sale. So I want to say we'll probably be pushing 220 to 225 a point by that point in time. Unless they want to make this.
But we were surprised. We thought Grand Floridian, it was selling for 255 before they stopped selling it, and then when they brought it back at 207, like that was like a jaw drop moment.
Yeah, we were all shocked. I was stunned.
Yeah,
plus huge incentives on top of it.
Yeah, that it was like in the 190s for existing members when it first came on. So that showed us kind of where they were at. And maybe they didn't need to push as hard to sell, you know what I mean, at this price point. It was just going to be an easy sell for them. But yeah, I'm so excited. And that member lounge, like that location, that's where they do dessert parties. And so if it's open later for members, they'll be able to watch fireworks from there. So I'm not sure if that's what the operating hours will be, but that's an amazing space, for members to have.
Yep.
I wonder too what the minimum purchase will be, because probably a lot of people don't know if they haven't been out to California, and that's where I grew up going, being from Los Angeles, going to Disneyland. But it's not like Walt Disney World where you can be here 2 weeks and still not see a fraction of the parks and everything going on. Whereas at Disneyland, you really don't need, because it is compact and it is small. You guys know, you were just there. You can do a lot in a day. I mean, you can do a whole park in a day, really. So you don't need as many points as you would. Let's see the point chart too. But you don't need 200 points or even maybe 150, because you might only stay a couple of days. So it'll be interesting what their minimum is.
See, when I go out, I'm out there for a week. If I'm going to make that.
But you don't move around, like you'll stay at the Disney Resort.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll stay usually at Disneyland Hotel or Grand Californian.
For the whole time?
For the whole time.
Okay.
Do things outside of the parks too, or?
Sometimes.
Yep.
So I like being there.
Yeah. I didn't want to leave. We were there for 5 nights, and I get what you're saying. Like, we did a lot, and by the end, we weren't rushing as much. We are just kind of, strolling through the park. But I'm with Pete. I want to stay longer. You know what I mean? I wish we never left.
I think it's because you don't live there too,
But,
right?
But if for locals,
Yeah.
it's going to be a one or two, like,
It's a couple nights.
Thursday night, downtown Disney is very, very calm. Friday night, downtown Disney's insane.
Yes.
Because of locals. And it's the same thing with the hotels. Getting rooms, the price of rooms on Friday and Saturday nights
Crazy.
are astronomical because the hotels fill up. It's a lot easier Sunday through Thursday, a lot cheaper Sunday through Thursday usually. So it's a slightly different dynamic than what we deal with out here.
Yes.
I think realistically, $225 a point is probably right, but there's this thing in the back of my head that says they know this is going to sell well, and they can probably get away with $275. They can probably get away with it, and
Let's hope not.
let's hope not.
Let's hope it goes
I don't
lower.
think they will. But there's still that part of me.
I mean, they'll raise the price quickly if they see it's selling super fast. So hopefully they'll start a little lower, a little more affordable with some
That's why
Grand Floridian-like incentives. And
That's why I think it's going to be important if you want to buy Disneyland Tower.
buy it soon.
That
Buy it
buy
when
it
it first comes out.
when it first comes
I
out.
agree.
Buy it when it first comes out. Don't wait. I'm looking at you, Kriegers. Don't wait.
Don't dilly-dally.
If you're going to buy it, you want to buy it. You want to buy it when it first comes out. The price is only going up. But yeah, I've gone back and forth in my head about whether or not I'm going to do it. But in the back of my head, I really know I'm going to do
You're
it.
going to do it. Yeah.
Just a question of how many points I'm going to buy. I want to see those point charts.
Yeah.
And because, I could see going out once a year. And a Disneyland trip, could I see myself booking 11 months out? Yeah, do I normally know? Normally when I go to Disneyland, I'm booking 2 or 3 months out. Would I adjust my way of doing things
Yeah.
because of that? Probably, maybe. I don't know.
What do you think this does for Grand Californian? Do you think it makes it even more appealing, being its smaller size, and it's a sort of a more intimate and deluxe resort, in my opinion? Or do you think that because of this new addition, it sort of brings it down a notch?
Well, until they refurb Grand Californian, the rooms at Disneyland Tower are going to be way better. You know what I mean? Like, we just got back. I love Grand Californian. Obviously, we bought points there. I love the resort is gorgeous. The location is perfect. The cast members are wonderful. The entrance to DCA, that's awesome. But the room was dated. Like, it really
They
does
are.
need a refurb.
Pretty dark.
And it's kind of like comparing, I don't want to say Boulder Ridge, but it's
Yeah,
like
that's where my head was.
It's like comparing Boulder Ridge to Riviera right now, right? Where Riviera is this beautiful, shiny, new, beautiful, pristine resort, and you got Boulder Ridge sitting over here that just
It's not those things.
needs some love. Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt. Like, we loved our stay. We had a beautiful view of California Adventure from our balcony. It was amazing. But I really hope, and they took away the refurbishment schedule, so we don't know anymore, what to expect. But I do think that resort, those rooms could use an update. And Disneyland Tower is just going to look way better,
Now, Panda, I imagine that your add-on-itis is going to kick in right around the time that Disneyland goes on sale.
Yeah, because I'm not a big flyer, I would probably do the Polynesian Tower here first,
Okay.
rather than Disneyland. But my question, as a layman to all this, to ask you guys, the fact that Disneyland Tower is coming on, does that also then help Aulani? Just because the more DVC love the West Coast gets, does it help?
No.
No,
No.
If anything, it's a nail in a coffin for Aulani, I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like.
Yeah, because the people buying points are going to buy there, not at Aulani. Which really, Aulani the most underrated resort
Oh yeah.
DVC has, and I get why people are hesitant to pull the trigger. It's a big trip. It's a big trip to make out there. Most people aren't going to do that once a year. But once you do Aulani, you want to go every year.
I could tell you the most calls I've ever had was somebody calling and wanting to add on. It's when someone's still in Aulani and they'll call and they're like, we're here, and we're doing this. Like, I get more calls where people are on property at Aulani right then and there wanting to add on or buy points, more so than when people are at Walt Disney. Like, I don't really get people too much at Walt Disney World calling me saying, we're here, we're having a great time, we want to add on. They wait till they get home or whatever. They call from Aulani and say, we want to add on. All the time. Number one thing.
It'd be interesting. I don't know what all incentives they've played around with over the years. I feel like DVC has washed their hands of Aulani for the most part and said, it's going to sell out when it's going to sell out. We're going to keep selling it, but aggressively marketing it or something like that has just been something they've put on the back burner a little bit. But it'd be interesting if they did some sort of incentive for owners, DVC members that have points and maybe are thinking about an Aulani trip, like incentivize them somehow to use their points in the 7-month window out at Aulani somehow, and get them there, get them to experience it, like you said, Jody.
I think that's got to be their best sales pitch.
Yeah.
The best
Getting
sales
them there.
pitch for Aulani is Aulani itself.
Right.
Getting them there.
But
Getting them there.
It's a long, expensive flight for us folks here in the West Coast.
It's like
East
11
East Coast.
hours.
Yeah, it's and it's not cheap. And if you've got little ones, that can't tolerate that kind of traveling, or you don't want to tolerate it with your little ones, that's probably the biggest challenge, because
Sure.
I think everybody wants to go there, but when they look at the reality of the cost of the flight and the amount of time it takes. But I always would tell people, why don't you break it up and go to Disneyland for a couple of days, then go
Right.
to Aulani. I think that's a perfect
We're going to do
solution.
it. We did it the opposite way back in March. We're doing it again in February with my family trip, which is why I bought all those points for Aulani, because doing that family trip was amazing, and I want to make that a yearly thing. So, and I get how expensive it is because I pay for everybody's airfare going out to Hawaii. But we did it the other way, where we went to Hawaii and then stopped in Disneyland on the way back. We're doing that this time.
Yeah. Just breaks up the trip.
And it breaks up the trip a little bit. I want to get to Hawaii as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
I want to get to Hawaii as quickly as possible. I want to get to
Scared-
Aulani as quickly as possible.
Scared flyer. After we did that Aulani trip, it's worth it. It's worth the fear of flying, because Aulani was it was a fantasy paradise land. I mean, I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. And as much as I loved Alaska, and I loved Alaska, I'm still like an Aulani person more.
So you're saying that your add-on will be at Aulani?
Well, there's some really good prices on resale at Aulani.
That's
just
possible.
so you know.
That's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, what does Aulani go for on the resale market right now?
In the low 100s, I'd say like 106 to 125, depending on the size.
And they don't ROFR. They don't buy it back.
They don't buy it
So
back.
Get
Yeah.
yourself a
Guaranteed to get
steal.
your points.
Yep.
So even if
I've got a subsidized dues Aulani, 750 points for
Oh man.
112.
Oh my gosh. 700.
It's just 750 points, guys. Come on.
just 700,
Panda?
You get your Grand
Just
Villa every other year.
don't even.
Subsidized dues.
I already have more than enough Aulani points to get my Grand Villa every
We booked
year.
we booked a dining reservation on the last show. So will you buy a contract?
Will I buy a contract on this one? Yeah.
We'll all go in together. What do you say?
Seven,
Just like
well,
20,000 each. Yeah.
explain the subsidized dues to everybody.
Okay, so back when we were selling Disney Direct for Disney, when I was a guide, the dues were set at a price that, I'll put this tactfully, were underestimated, basically. And Disney accounting figured this out and said, these dues that we quoted everybody, and I think thousands and thousands of people bought thinking the dues were this. Disney accounting came in and said, yeah, the dues are wrong, guys. We need to fix this. And they went up significantly. I mean, but I will give Disney a lot of credit. They did the right thing, and they said, for those of you who already bought under the, thing we sold you that the dues are going to be XYZ, we're going to subsidize those. So forever, you're still going to be paying those dues, and
It's like a
The
couple
rumor,
bucks less
the rumor is that heads rolled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
there
that.
was a few high level people who no longer had a job at Disney after that. So, so when you have subsidized dues, you're essentially paying less. It's a couple dollars per point less than everybody else per point. 6 something per point versus 8 something per point.
And
I don't know.
those pass along to the new buyer
They
of that
do.
contract.
That-
It stays with the contract.
Stays with
Yes,
contract.
that's important, and I'm really glad that they did that as well, because the reasoning behind it was because they didn't want to shortchange the person who originally bought it, but they theoretically, you think that when they resell it, they could say, well, now you know what the dues are, and not honor the subsidized dues portion. But they did. They're doing it, and it passes along to the new buyer. So they're very highly sought after. People love them because they do save you a ton of money over the years.
So there's a 700 point
just
and
let
I'm
us
sitting
know.
here doing math in my head.
Amy can give you a
Finance that for
quote.
you.
Yes.
Amy's more than happy to finance it. And then if you don't use all 700 points, Paul can help you rent them out
Help offset
There
the
you go.
cost. Yes.
and just offset the cost.
Come
It's,
full circle now.
it's a circle of life.
We are just always This has been a brainstorming day, hasn't it?
It has been a brainstorming day. Anything else? Anything else we want to cover on the West Coast?
Really, I'm just really happy that DVC is paying attention to the West Coast. We get this asked of us all the time. When are they going to show the West Coast some love? When are they going to show Disneyland some love? And it seems like they're headed in this direction. I rumored this previously on another show, but it does seem like they created one piece of merch for this year's Moonlight Magic events, and it was a pin series that actually came out pretty late. And part of that pin series is a Disneyland pin and a Grand Californian pin. And so it makes me wonder, either they had plans for a Moonlight Magic out there and they canned it, or maybe we're still potentially going to hear something later this year about a last-minute Disneyland Moonlight Magic. But I think that things are just getting revved up out there. I think we're just starting to hear some news about what's to come down the pike. And just from our experience out there,
I would so make a special trip to Disneyland for a Moonlight Magic.
right? Yeah,
I would so make a special trip.
I mean, it is so much more. I don't want to say it's more magical. The thing I keep going back to is that I think what Walt wanted the park experience to be like is still alive and well at Disneyland.
It's more intimate. Disneyland is more intimate than Disney World. Like, the characters were just, we just got back on Monday. The characters were just roaming around. They don't get mobbed like they do at Disney World. You can just, walk up and say hi and take a picture. And they just pack so much entertainment into one park. In one night, Disneyland does 2 Fantasmic shows, 2 runs of the Main Street Electric Parade, and they did a projection show of Encanto on Small World and Disneyland Forever, which is an amazing fireworks show. All of that every single night, pending weather.
in one park.
In one park. That's more than we have here in one night in 4 parks. So that's pretty impressive. There's just always new entertainment and stuff. So,
And we were extremely lucky and grateful to have the opportunity to dine at Club 33 for dinner. And just
just
amazing.
overall, just a really
It was for your
cool.
birthday.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah, it was really neat. So,
it was a good birthday.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, there you have it. That's a look at what's going on the West Coast with Disney Vacation Club. And that will do it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another edition of the DVC Show. Have a great week, folks.